Now it was after these things that God tested Abraham, and he said to him, Abraham, Hineni. He said, take your son, your only son whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains about which I will tell you. So Abraham got up early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him. And Isaac, his son, he split wood for burnt offerings, and he got up and went to the place about which had God told him. On the 3rd day Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place from a distance. Abraham said to his young men, sit yourselves down here with the donkey. Ask for me, and the young man will go. As for me and the young man, we will go over there, worship, and return to you. Then Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and put it on Isaac and his son and his hand, and he took the fire and the knife. So the 2 of them walked together. Then Isaac said to Abraham his father, my father. Then he said, here I am. There's that statement again, Hineni, my son. He said, look, there's the fire and the wood, but where's the lamb for the burnt offering? Then Abraham said, God will provide for himself a lamb for a burnt offering, my son. The 2 of them walked together. Then they came to the place about God had told him, and Abraham built the altar there, laid out the wood, bound up Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar on the top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took his knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of God called to him and said, Abraham, Abraham. There it is again. Here I am, Hanani. And then he said, do not reach out your hand against the young man. Do nothing to him at all, for now I know that you are one who fears God. You did not withhold your son, your only son, from me. So, here God is testing Abraham's faith. This is a test of faith. God, I've had arguments with people stating that God, really intended for him to kill Isaac, but when we've read the text prior, God tells Abraham that your descendants will come from Isaac. That's very obviously not true. This is a test of faith.
How fucking
scarred that child must be, because he was bound up and everything.
That's not true either, because it calls him a young man. And we hear of no struggle from Isaac. Isaac goes onto the altar willingly. And that's the shocking part. The shocking part isn't that Abraham's about to sacrifice his son. It's that Isaac doesn't put up a fight. Isaac is a young man when this occurs. And he willfully allows himself to be bound, having faith in God.
He's had a good upbringing.
He's had a good upbringing, fairly.
And again, we've got this continuous poetry. Here I am, here I am. And then Abraham lifted his eyes, and behold, there was a ram, just caught in the thick bushes by its horns. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham named the place Adonai Yireh, as it is said today, on the mountain Adonai will provide. And the angel of Adonai called to Abraham a second time from heaven, and he said, by myself I swear, it is a declaration of Adonai, because you have done this thing, you did not withhold your son, your only son, I will richly bless you, and bountifully multiply your seed like the stars of heaven, and the sands of the seashores, and the seed will possess the gates of his enemies. In your seed all nations of the earth will be blessed. This is a later hint towards the messianic prophecies. Because you obeyed my voice. Then Abraham returned to his young men, and they got up and went together in Beersheba. Now notice this interesting statement here. Isaac is not said to have come down with them. In other words, we understand that despite both of the men doing this willingly, the relationship between Abraham and Isaac is scarred. Obviously, they still probably love each other. But Isaac is not described as coming back down the mountain with Abraham. And through this, we are informed that the status quo has now changed due to this event. That, in a way, Abraham really did sacrifice his son. Not in the physical sense, but in an emotional and spiritual sense. That the relationship between Abraham and Isaac is forever cut at this point. And so Abraham's willing to make that sacrifice if it means that Isaac will have everything he needs. He essentially sacrificed his parenthood, and this is why Abraham's an exemplar of our faith. Willing to go out of his way to do these hard emotional sacrifices that very few would ever make.